These are my material. These are my audience members. Okay, pass that to Izzy for me. Okay, so Bob Ross is a painter and he expresses himself through landscapes. So today I'm going to show you how to draw a lily to get you in touch with your creative side. So first thing we have to do is go through our fundamentals of drawings. The first fundamental of drawing is lines. So we have stuff like vertical lines, straight lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, dotted lines, and etc. And these are all used in different drawings to convey what you want to draw. The next fundamental is shading. So this goes from light to dark in order to give the image depth and more shape to your drawing. Next we have is angles, and I have a picture of the angle of holding your pencil, and this is how you would get your shading. If it's more a light-handed or heavy-handed, that's how you would get the angles. And you also need angles when looking at what you're drawing. You want to make sure to have a straightforward look at what you're drawing, a straight posture, or also the angles of your reference photo. So here I have my reference photo. This is just inspiration. I'm not going to draw exactly this. I specifically chose this photo of lilies to look at the pointy image of the petals and the center image. So first thing you want to do is grab your materials. So usually I would draw on a table, but for the sake of the speech, I'm going to be drawing on a clipboard. You want a flat surface in order to get the best drawing. Next, you need a pencil and an eraser and a paper to draw on, and that's it for your drawings. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my lines of symmetry. And I'm just going to eyeball the center of the paper and draw a horizontal line and a vertical line. I'm doing this without a ruler because drawings aren't supposed to be perfect. This is supposed to be creative and really show your personality. So now that I have these two lines, I'm going to draw a diagonal line going outwards from the center in each quadrant that we have here. These are going to represent the middle of 4 petals. And then the vertical line we have here, this is going to be the top petal and this is going to be the bottom petal. Now we're going to go back into the fundamentals of drawing and we're going to use a curved line starting from the center, curving outwards, whoops, and then curving inwards. And we're going to do this for each line that we have here that's supposed to represent a petal. And it's okay if it's not perfect, as this isn't going to be our final drawing. This is just to get the outline of the petals and the shape of what we have.
Looks good already.
So now that we have this, we're going to look back at our reference photo and we can see that lilies have a pointier end to their petals. So I'm going to go back in and sharpen them up a bit. While I'm doing this, I'm also shading in the end of the petal to give it a little more depth. I'm going to turn it towards me to get a better angle. I'm also elongating the petals while I do this, because as you can see here, lilies usually have longer petals and they typically fold over. So for this petal right here, I'm just going to give it a little curvature, as it's the top, so gravity would pull it a little more towards the ground. Now I'm going to look to see if I like the shape of my petals. This one's a little smaller, so I'm going to make it a little more round and a little longer to match my other petals. This one's also a little too thin for my liking, so I'm going to curve it up a bit more. Now we're going to go more into the shading aspect. I'm going to follow the curvature of my existing petals and darken up the sides. And then for the center, I'm just going to go lightly handed to give the petal a little more depth. And I'm going to do that for each petal. I'm going to turn it towards me to get a better angle, like I said. And personally, the messier the better, in my opinion, but do whatever to your liking. So now that I have the outside points of the petal a little darker, I'm gonna focus back on the center, and I'm gonna do the same thing, darkening the outline of the petal, and then shading a bit in the center, but with a more light hand. And I don't wanna go all the way to the center of the petal, as it would make it more two-dimension and lose the depth and the shape of the flower. I'm gonna turn it towards me again. And I'm just darkening the edges of the petals. And now that we have the outline of the flower, we can see here that these lilies have these little antenna looking like things, which is what produces the pollen. So I'm gonna pick 2 petals. I usually like to go for the top. And I like to draw 3 lines, 2 of them following the curve of the petal, and then 1 going a little more straight up. And I don't like these lines to go past the petal, as it makes it look a little unrealistic. Then I'm gonna draw some ovals on the tips of these lines in order to get that dimension. I'm gonna look back at my petals to see if I want any more shading. This one's lacking a little. So I'm gonna go back in and shade the outside of the petal and the inside to give it more depth.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, and now I'm just gonna look at my petals to see if some of them lost their shape while I was shading. This one here, a line went stray, so I'm gonna erase that. A line over here, and then I'm gonna wanna make sure to sharpen the line back up again. And now I'm gonna erase my lines of symmetry that I originally drew in order to keep my petals a little in place. And then I'm gonna check one more time for shading. And I'm just gonna shade on the outside edge. And there you have it, we have a lily. Do you have any questions on drawing
That's
a lily?
beautiful.
That was great.
Yes.
I have a question. I like sunflowers. Would the same concepts be applied to drawing sunflowers as well?
Yes, you wanna make sure to roughly know the amount of petals a sunflower has so you can draw your lines of symmetry in order to make sure the flower doesn't lose its shape while you're drawing. And thank you. And make sure to get in touch with your creativity and not compare yourself to others.
Thank you.
All
Bravo.
I'm proud of you.
Pretty
Good
good.
job.